Dr. Rudy Cashman, neurosurgeon in Fort Wayne, Indiana, actually for 40 years. And I'm only 39 years old. You know, after seeing these thousands of patients, I have realized that 50 to 80% of the people that I'm looking at really is a physical presentation of stress. So I read a lot about it and also experienced these patients over these years to the point that I formed the MindBody Index, just like the demonstration here to my left, to your right. On that, I list what I call mind-body diseases. These are illnesses that could be treated conservatively, no injections, no narcotics, no surgery. They probably represent 50 to 80% of what a physician looks at. Isn't it something? So what do we need to graduate from medical school? Wellness doctors. Wellness doctors. Let me go through these diseases a little bit. They are caused by stress. Tonight's lecture here will be on stress reduction, because stress is a cause of these illnesses. And I'll just spend a minute and go over them. Irritable bowel syndrome, 20 million people. Fibromyalgia, probably another 20 million people. 20% of cancers due to stress. Chest pain, 75% of people see a doctor with chest pain is stress reaction. Nothing fancy needs to be done. And I could go down the line through these 20, 30 illnesses. They are 10 times more common in women than men. That's interesting. And that's what this graph demonstrates, the difference between men and women. Why is that? Women are under a lot more stress. A number of kids, they get a job, and then the real kid comes home at night and wants dinner to be ready. They lead very stressful lives. Their endorphins, their own morphine, don't work as good as male endorphins. So that's the reason we see a lot more of this in females than in men. And these need conservative treatment. They don't need injections, operations, and narcotics, which unfortunately I see a lot of. So the cause of this is stress. So let's go into the main lecture now, stress reduction. And I'll going to demonstrate and teach you the physiology of stress and what you can do about it. And we'll go through this. Let's go through a history a little bit. Hans Seeley, a neurophysiologist in Montreal, originally from Germany, he did an awful lot of research on this in animals. He did it for many years, probably published 1,000 papers. He's no longer alive. And he tried to search for a definition of stress. He called it the non-specific response of the body to a psychological or physical threat. Another definition is the rate of wear and tear in your body. The best definition, though, I think, is inability to cope with perceived, what your perception is, real or imaginary, doesn't have to be real, threats to one's mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. That's the best definition of stress. A very nice one to remember. What are causes of it, for example? Western society, we live in a very stressful society. Too much going on. Too much email, texting, job, threats of losing one's job, have to drive to work. Sometimes people drive for an hour or two. No time for ourselves. Raising 3 children and no help. A lot of times employers don't pay for someone to watch your children while you're working, men and wife both working. That's very stressful. Life itself and the circumstances. We're like monkeys jumping from tree to tree. Family stress, the interaction of the children in today's society, the amount of drug addiction, for example, the amount of injuries, bad behavior, smoking, all these things, the stress in the family. That's job stress. Look at the number of unemployed people today. I see in the office, I hear it all day long. I don't know how these people stand it, how they live. Can't pay their mortgage, can't buy the food. It is very stressful to lose your job. And the job itself is stressful. Myself being a neurosurgeon, I'll tell you, it's stressful. Economic stress today. The stock market is plunging last year. A lot of people lost their 401ks. They're under tremendous economic stress. I even give a lecture on stress in economics. It's on my website, cashmanmindbody.com. You can print off the PowerPoints. Illness, very stressful, especially two people, say, working in the family, and one of them becomes sick. Now we got one person working, and they were living according to the incomes of the two people. But now only one is working. Can you imagine being in a bad accident? What this does to families, paying the mortgage, sending the kids through college. So economics and an illness, horribly stressful. Accidents. I mean, you can take a major automobile accident, put somebody in a wheelchair or break their leg, not working for months at a time. Very stressful. In school, it's stressful. I remember my wife attending college at a little later age here, finishing, trying to get another degree, a second degree. And she was up till 4 or 5 in the morning with her computer for about 6 months at a time. Very stressful for her. And hundreds more stresses. This is a sample. Let's talk about college kids, for example. College stress, roommate dynamics. I know my daughter went to college, and her roommate started using her cell phone card right away and ran up a $1,000 bill, which in the end, frankly, I paid because her parents wouldn't pay it, and it was on my daughter's credit card. And professional pursuits, these are stressful. Academic deadlines, got to get a paper in, got to get a term paper in. Financial aid and school loans. I mean, I read in the paper today, a lot of kids are graduating with $100,000 in debts. Medical students graduating with $200,000 in debts. And how to pay that is very difficult. So money budgeting to reach the budget at all times. And especially in families, one person only controls the budget, and the other one's got nothing to say about it. And both are using the credit cards. You can see unpredictable that could be and how stressful that could be. Lifestyle behaviors. Are we smoking? Are we drinking? Are we taking chances? Are we racing around on motorcycles with no helmet on? Like a couple of us this weekend took this 45-year-old guy, this beautiful girl out for a ride on a motorcycle, no helmets, and now she isn't quite as beautiful as she was. And peer pressure, drugs and alcohol affect our lives. Exploring sexuality, teenagers and people, you can see the accidents that happen there. We have a very high rate of pregnancy rates and only one parent. It's a real problem in society today. Friendships can be stressful. So this is the word. Stress is a global epidemic. Stress, let's go a little further. This psycho-interpersonal influences make it the greatest percentage of the stressors. Thoughts, how you think, your values. Usually stress occurs because you're doing something not consistent with your values. That's what results in depression and stress. Beliefs, your own beliefs. You might find out you've been going to church on a regular basis, and you may even homeschooled. But all of a sudden you're in college, and all of a sudden you've been thinking the world is 10,000 years old because your church says this, and you find out in your zoology class that it's 3 billion years old. I could imagine the psychological stress on that individual, how to manage the mind, how to deal with that. Attitudes and perception. So what's a lot of stress about? It's to defend our own ego. It's to defend how we think, what we believe in. So it's a gap between our perceived self and ideal self-image and things that are consistent with that. And we start developing, can't sleep, get headaches, mind-body illnesses, our stomachs get upset. We start vomiting, we have chest pain, we have rashes. We develop chronic itching, all stress reactions. Techno-stress today, look at this great technology we have today, but there's also a lot of stress. Significant number of people don't know how to use a computer. You buy a new car, you got to know a computer almost to run your car. To pay your bills, you need a computer almost. So Dr. Cannon in 1910 described the fight or flight response. This is the acute stress. There's acute stress that occurs immediately and is over. There's chronic stress that lasts for a long period of time. That's what we live under. That's what we are not used to. Acute stress, that saber-tooth tiger is running at you, you either live or die, is over quickly. Your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate goes up, you start sweating, your pupils dilate, your bowels shut down, You can no longer urinate. Your blood sugars go up. Your fat breaks down to give you energy. That's the acute stress response of Dr. Cannon, described in 1910. But Hans Seeley described the chronic stress, the long-term stress, that is a lot more common, and that's what we live under. So the physical and psychological aspects to stress, our body reacts to our thoughts. Most of our thoughts are subconscious. Maybe 20% of our thoughts are really on a conscious level. So things change from Newton to Einstein. We used to have the mechanistic reductionist approach where we thought we cut the head off the body and we thought all disease could be totally explained by some changes in our organs. It's not true. It is not true. Most of the things we're looking at today, 50 to 80%, you study the patient, he's got complaints of headaches or chest pain or belly pain or skin rashes, and you find nothing. You don't find nothing. That's the mind-body illnesses. We need to make sure they don't get over-treated. And the answer for treatment is totally different than an operation or a pill or injection or a pain center. Just a little demonstration of the brain here. This is the limbic system where a lot of our emotions are located. The cortex here affects the limbic system. Here again, just a little demonstration. In here we have the pituitary gland. Here we have the hypothalamus. That's the metabolic center of your brain. That is where a lot of the neuropeptides, hormones are made, neurotransmitters that affect the way we react in our body. Most drugs work in the brainstem right here. Here's the hypothalamus, which is really the Wizard of Oz of your body. It's a control center of your emotions, of your metabolic system, of your temperature. And it secretes a lot of its steroid-stimulating hormones right down the stalk to the pituitary gland. Here's a little better shot of the hypothalamus. Illnesses caused by stress. Let's go over this a little bit. Skin diseases, probably 20 different rashes are caused by the mind. By the mind. Yes, I saw a patient the other day, sweating all over. He looked extremely nervous. He ran a company. Business was poor. And but every 3 months he broke out in a rash. And they were going to send him to the Mayo Clinic to have this examined. And when I took his history, for Pete's sake, that's neurodermatitis, a stress reaction. If you practice stress reduction techniques, some yoga, some walking, some music, maybe even some medication, I bet his rash will not reappear. This is a psychological reaction. The skin is the largest organ in your body, so it's not surprising that it reacts to stress. Fibromyalgia, what's that? Some doctors don't believe in it. Believe me, I've been doing this 40 years. I see it all the time, 2 or 3 times a day. Headaches, shoulder pain, low back pain. You run studies, you find nothing. And it just plagues these patients, and it's real. It's caused by their adrenaline, their neuropeptides, their neurotransmitters in the body causing spasm in the muscles, and they have terrible pain. They're walking around like this every day. They'll get a massage. They should take maybe some benign medication, take a good walk. They could do Rudy and Kelly's 20 stress reduction techniques, which are on my internet site, cashmanmindbody.com. I have on there 20 techniques for stress reduction. You can print them off for free. Look under the stress icon on cashmanmindbody.com website. Tension myositis is kind of the same as fibromyalgia. Chronic back pain, neck pain, see it commonly, dime a dozen. What's happening, unfortunately, a lot of these patients go to an overactive surgeon, and he gets x-rays, gets an MRI, it shows the changes of aging, and he says, that's the cause of your problem. Before you know it, he's operating on you, fusing your back, and God knows every other thing, when in reality that you have fibromyalgia. You got to watch out for that. These pain centers, you got to watch out for them. They concern me. They want to inject you a lot, things like this. These things should be treated in a lot more friendly way. Chest pain, 75% of chest pain due to stress. Cardiac spasm. When I was in med school, so concerned about my next test the next day, man, I want to be a doctor so bad I got to taste it. That's why at my little age, 39 here, I'm still practicing medicine. Why? I don't like being a doctor. I love being a doctor. It's a tremendous privilege. There would be a test the next day. I felt like my heart would stop. I swear it was beating 2 or 3 times a minute. That's stress. That's stress. Cardiac arrhythmia, irregular heart rate, a lot of times due to stress. Sometimes you don't need a pacemaker right away. You ought to try stress reduction for a few months and see if the arrhythmia goes away. Chronic bowel problems, dime a dozen. Remember, I talked about 20 million people have irritable bowel. You run studies on them, find nothing. So what do they need? A bunch of medications and everything? Well, sometimes they do. But they really should go to, like for example, my yoga studio and get a massage, do some yoga, do some Zumba dancing, do some breathing techniques, some meditation techniques to reduce their stress. The symptoms may very well clear up. I have a lot of success stories to talk about. Anorexia nervosa is a stress reaction, again, a bowel problem. Bulimia, young girls many times just vomit their guts out to get rid of their weight. Vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, a lot of times is related to the way you think. There are 400 million neurocells in your gut. A guy wrote a book, Gershon wrote a book called The Second Brain. The Second Brain, talking about your GI system. It is influenced by the autonomic nervous system, by the regular nervous system, by neurotransmitters, by neuropeptides, and by hormones. So how you think is everything. Every thought that you have will affect the 7 trillion cells of your body. Just think of it. You get up mad, your whole body is mad. You get up singing a song, you feel great. I know when I drive to work, I always put in some great music because if I wake up from the previous day's work, one thing or another, not feeling too good, time I hit the coffee shop or I hit the hospital, I'm feeling wonderful because my mind's been dancing along with the music. It's like meditation. I visualize the notes. I visualize I'm playing the instrument. That's meditation. I bring myself into the present moment. I don't think anything in the past or nothing in the future. I'm talking about right now. That's very relaxing, very relaxing. Rheumatoid arthritis, not all of it, some are caused by stress, because stress with the steroids causes inflammation and can, as a result, it can cause rheumatoid arthritis. Not all rheumatoid arthritis do that, but it's common. Some thyroid problems are due to stress because the influence of your hypothalamus through your TSH on your thyroid. Parts of diabetes are due to stress. Overeating starts from stress. Headaches, 80% of headaches are due to stress. You don't need a whole bunch of pills, for Pete's sake. Practice Rudy and Kelly's 20 prescriptions for stress reduction. Take a good walk, get a massage, try some music. Exercise is very good to relieve headaches. Don't start taking narcotics. We have many addicted people from taking narcotics for what I consider these mind-body diseases. What's the difference between disease and illness? An illness is having symptoms, whether it be headache or chest pain or bowel symptoms, but instead the patient find nothing. But it's real. The patient is really having a problem, but it's an illness. Diseases are things like diabetes, lung cancer. That's a disease. So we see a great deal of emotionally induced illnesses due to stress. The mind-body illnesses, they used to call them psychosomatic disease. I don't like that term. And these illnesses are real. I never said it's in your head. That's totally wrong. These illnesses are absolutely real because the changes induced by the brain. Most stresses are not clear, and this is what prevents full recovery. You can't figure out why you got it. Can you figure out why you got it? It's based on many years accumulation in your subconscious mind of your stresses. And eventually, your brain can't stand it. Instead of coming out shooting or hitting somebody, the brain comes out as mind-body illnesses. That's how it comes out. It's trying to hide. Your brain is trying to present it in a more friendly manner. But then again, it can totally plague you. You must identify it. Many physicians are untrained in identifying these illnesses. And it's not taught much at the medical school level. I know it isn't because I've been down there. And but most stresses are minor but unrelenting and accumulate. They accumulate in your brain. And they add up eventually to mind-body diseases. Mind-body diseases have replaced infectious disease as a major medical problem in Western society. When they're talking about reforming health care today, this is what I like to point out to them. When 50% of the people need a coach. They don't need a doctor. They need a coach. But unfortunately, medicine is not educated in coaching. There's a few out there, but most of them are educated in what? Procedures, injections, narcotics, operations. You get paid more for talking to people, or you get more for operating on people. Let's face it, guys. Let's be honest about it. And we have to change medicine in some manner. So 50 or 70% of patients seeing medical providers today have a stress-induced illness. They need to meet a coach. I cannot, and Dr. Seeley said, remember that's old Hans, the German in Montreal, and I cannot and should not be cured by stress, but merely taught to enjoy it. You need some stress, otherwise you wouldn't get out of bed. Otherwise you wouldn't get out of bed, but you don't want too much stress. Personality traits that keep us well, that affect, these A through D here I'm going to talk about, these what they found especially in people who were horribly stressed that lived in concentration camps in Germany during the war. And the ones that survived many times, they were committed. They had a commitment to survive. There's something in life else they wanted to do. They had a sense of control. They had a sense of control of the situation they were in. How do you get a sense of control? Make a plan. The most horrible thing might have happened. Somebody died. Your finances went to hell. But develop a plan. Think hard. And make a plan. Once you write down the plan, and write it down, very important, write it down, you'll find your stress goes down. Because now at least you have some control of the situation. You have a bunch of debts, well, pay everybody a little bit. You have some control. Then look at it as a challenge. I can beat this system. As a patient I saw 5 years ago with a horrible malignant tumor, he says, "Doctor, I'm not going to die." Guess what happened? He didn't die. Positive thinking. Secreted his own good neuropeptides, and he survived. And also patients who survived, we're talking about horrible stress here, a sense of coherence. They could make some sense out of it, and felt they will live through it. So in horrible stresses, a sense of commitment, control, look at it as a challenge, as a coherence. Don't say, "I give up." I tell you, if someone tells you, "I give up," and you've been diagnosed with the cancer, and you have 6 months to live, and you believe it, oh, that's about as long as you're going to live. But if you develop a sense of commitment, control, challenge, and coherence, I'm going to watch Johnny graduate from college 6 years from now. There's a good chance you will live that long. I give lectures on the mind and cancer. I truly believe that. My experience of 44 years of being a physician, over 12,000 surgeries that I've done. But mind you, I'm an active surgeon. I totally believe in surgery. But the other 80%, I teach stress reduction, about mind-body illnesses, and I educate them, give them books to read, send them to my yoga studio, and get them well that way. I tell you honestly, what it's done for me, made me feel like a doctor. I don't feel like I'm a carpenter engineer of the human body. I feel like I'm a physician. The 50%, and I tell you the 50% that they're getting overtreated, are breaking the medical bank with their providers. The patient can't help. He doesn't know these things. He has to be educated. And if he's going to a provider that overdoes things, he's going to get right into the system because the patients many times don't know better, and I don't see any reason why they really should know better. Although, you can go to a computer and try to put things together, but they're not doctors. So some stress is necessary, improves our function, fight or flight, gets us out of bed in the mornings. Humans have self-imposed conscious censorship over the biology basic reaction to stress. The only darn trouble is that through evolutionary time, there's been no changes in our body in the last 30,000 years. It's been too short a time in terms of evolution. That bodies haven't changed to accommodate this chronic stress. Remember, I talked about the long-term stress, the Seeley stress. It's been proven in animals. NIH no longer pays for research on animals, stress them like Seeley used to do. He would stress the heck out of an animal, and the adrenalines would enlarge and then atrophy, the white blood cells would dive down, the heart would increase in size, they get high blood pressure, and eventually they would die. That's called the adaptation syndrome of Hans Seeley. But they no longer allow that research because it's been proven. In humans, it's the same darn thing. Use stress. So we have good stress that gets us out of bed, gets us moving, and gets the paper done, gets the work done. And then we have, when it's too much, it gets to be distress, and then performance goes down. Let's go through the physiology here a little bit. How does the stress response start? Well, we have in the cortex, the main part of our brain, we interpret the situation in our life Then there's a nerve impulse to the hypothalamus and the limbic system, and that causes secretion of neuropeptides, CRH, the cortical-releasing hormone, and then it goes pituitary, and then ACTH is secreted, adrenocortical stimulating hormone that heads to the adrenal gland. The adrenal gland then reacts and puts out steroids and sugar to stimulate our metabolic system, and puts out cortisone, which for a period of time helps it, but over a long period of time, stress destroys it. Stress, cortisone in the long run interferes with our eicosanoids. What are the eicosanoids? They are the intel chip of our body. You don't hear enough about them. They're extremely important. Before we had oxygen on the earth, there was anaerobic metabolism. How did cells communicate with each other? It was eicosanoids that jumped from cell to cell. There was no blood system, no blood system. We get good ones and we get bad ones. The prostaglandins are the bad ones. The leukotrienes are the bad ones. And then we have good ones that are needed for our survival. But steroids destroy eicosanoids, and that causes inflammation in our body, cancer, heart disease, strokes, and eventually leads to death. So the basic stress reaction, then, as we talked about before, it affects your bowels, it affects your heart, it affects your skin, it affects your blood sugar, fat metabolism, and eventually can wear your body down and destroy your eicosanoids and lead to death. So let's go through it a little bit once more so you understand it. Chronic stress, long-term stress. It starts, the brain sends an impulse to the hypothalamus. Remember, that's the guy at the base of the brain here, my diagram over here. You can see it right here. That's the hypothalamus right there. Adrenal glands, cortisone is secreted. The lymph glands shrink. Thyroid is stimulated, increases your metabolism. Your sex hormones decrease. Your GI system shuts down. Your cholesterol level elevates, causing heart disease. You get cardiac arrhythmias. Your blood pressure goes up. You have an increased breathing rate. Your blood thickens and becomes more thrombotic, resulting in heart attacks. Your skin sweats, and your five senses become more acute. Your seeing and your hearing and your sense of touch become more acute. That's the stress response. So our 30,000-year-old evolutionary bodies are not capable of dealing with today's society. Our bodies have not changed. The same with the diet. The Western diet, the sad, mad, toxic Western diet we're eating, started when we started domesticating animals and started domesticating farming. Yet in those 10,000 years, our bodies never changed. So as a result, when we eat this bad food, we have heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. There's been nothing there to protect us. So the adrenal cortex reacts, talking about the brain here, the cortex reacts, but the subcortex restrains it. So we're talking about the conscious versus the subconscious mind. How does the brain speak to the body? That's interesting. They're ligands, connectors. It does it through estrogen, testosterone, hormones. It does this through neurotransmitters. Examples are serotonin, adrenaline, acetylcholine, GABA. Neurotransmitters. They jump from nerve to nerve. A nerve isn't a straight impulse from the brain to your toe. They travel a certain distance, and you need neurotransmitters. Acetylcholine being the relaxer, adrenaline being the stressor. Neuropeptides, 300 of them at least, secreted by the brain, also made in the monocytes of your blood. So how you think is important. What prevents cancer? Your immunity prevents cancer. So if you're a negative thinker, you're going to affect the monocytes in your blood through the negative neuropeptides, and cancer rates go up. Christopher Reeve dies, his wife doesn't smoke, and she's dead in a year of what? From the stress, husband dying, her immunity went down, she developed lung cancer and died. That's a typical stress reaction. So it's body, mind, body. We speak to our body through neuropeptides, neurotransmitters. But the monocytes in your blood make all the neuropeptides too. So we speak back to the brain. So it's not just a one-way street. It's how we think is everything. And that we have the autonomic nervous system, that's the sympathetic, the stress reactor. And the parasympathetic, that's the relaxer. How do you get the relaxer to work? Breathing techniques, meditation. That brings out the acetylcholine, relaxes us. Deep, long breathing is meditation. If you can't get your mind still, do a mantra. That's mind energy. Think of something, or repeat the same word. Repeat the same word, and that will quiet your mind. That's a breathing technique. So the autonomic system is responsible for the physiological reaction that causes stress. The saber-toothed tiger runs at you, you get no time to think. Your sympathetic nervous system will react automatically. It'll be automatically. And we spoke already about the method of communication from the brain through the pituitary gland, through the limbic system, which is your emotional part of your brain. We spoke about this already. So the limbic system, again, is the center of your brain. We talked about that, the emotional part of the brain. It has the 7 functions, 4 M's: memory, mood, motivation, mating, fear, fighting, food. That's all in the limbic system, just above your pituitary. So a stressful event, again, to drive the point home, cortex to the limbic system, to the diencephalon above your hypothalamus, to your pituitary, and then through these ligands, these connectors to your body, and then your body adrenal glands react by secretion of steroids, adrenaline, and affects your heart, your GI, your skin. So you see now how thinking can affect your whole body and cause mind-body illnesses. I think you fully understand that now. This is very interesting here. Candace Pert wrote a book, Molecules of Emotion. Great reading, great reading. What she is saying, she's at Georgetown University. I've met her. I took my training at Georgetown. I started the year Kennedy got shot. 80% of the connection of the brain to the body are not through nerves. They're through neuropeptides, through proteins, something that's underestimated. And that's the reason how you think affects your body tremendously. So the body, she states, is your subconscious mind. Interesting. She wrote this book, very easy to read, 1972. She should have gotten the Nobel Prize. She didn't because her boss wanted it, and there was a little tiff about it, and she never did get it. But her work led to discover the endorphins, your own morphine. So, and she says also, there's memory in the monocytes, the white cells of your blood. They have so many receptor sites, so if you're constant negative thinkers, these monocytes remember that. And that's how cancer starts, for example. Inflammation starts because your thought process affects your blood, Most stress is stored in the brain on the subconscious level. Only about 20% of your thoughts are on the conscious basis. There's memory in the neurons, the neuropeptides in your body. Your bowel has memory in it. Your subconscious mind is in your brain and body. This is Kenneth Pert speaking, where he spoke about the sympathetic, the stressor, the parasympathetic, the relaxer. The typical Cannon reaction we talked about, dilated pupils, tight throat, irregular heart rate. Med school, I thought my heart would stop. Tense neck and muscles, hair standing up, just like your stressed cat maybe. Skin tingling, perception, skin rashes. The Mayo Clinic opened now a department of psychoneurodermatology because they're seeing so many diseases caused of the skin caused by stress. I had a lady next to me at a dinner table recently. She had a rash 15 years, wouldn't go away. And I sent her for some massages and some acupuncture treatment. Guess what? She sends me a letter. It looked like she'd kissed the page. Says, thanks, Dr. Cashman. My rash went away. So these things do work. GI upset constantly. I think a nasty thought, my bowel is upset. Bowels slow up or speed up. And stress can affect the clotting ability of your blood, too. Same in man and animals. Seeley proved that. Animals react the same way. So acetylcholine is the relaxer, okay? And it causes muscle relaxation. Through breathing techniques, meditation techniques, you can cause your body to relax and slow your heart rate down, your brain slows down. If you're ever stressed out, for Pete's sake, sit there. You can be in a car, you can be at home, lay on the floor, take about 20 real deep, slow breaths. If you can't quiet your mind, repeat the same word or mantra, or visualize something. Visualize walking down the beach. Do them both. Visualize walking down the beach, something friendly. Repeat a certain word quietly or out loud. Takes 20 real deep breaths. That'll relax you every time. Your blood pressure will drop every time. I know I do it every morning. My blood pressure drops 20 points when I do deep breathing techniques and visualize walking down the beach or off my dock at the lake. My blood pressure drops 20 points every time. And it's something good to do. And the swiftest reaction is by the sympathetic nervous system. The tiger runs at you, reactions like that. And the hormones, neurotransmitters, neuropeptides take a little more time. So it's first electrical reaction of your brain, then the endocrine then the ACTH to the adrenal glands. That's the stress reaction. The adrenal glands in the middle, they secrete adrenaline. On the cortex, the outer layer, the glucosteroids that increase your blood sugar, increase your cortisone. Pro-inflammatory steroids, they cause the inflammation. So in summary, it's brain-body, body-brain. In your body, Kenneth Purd described, you have receptor sites. She's the first one in 72 to describe where do external drugs or internal drugs work. She demonstrated through radioisotopes these receptor sites, high in the bowel, some in the heart, a lot on the skin, some in muscle. She demonstrated, for that should have gotten the Nobel Prize, where medications work. So stress can save us or kill us, and a voodoo effect. And I got some examples for you coming up here. The assessment of patient's stress level needs to be part of every medical visit. When you go see the doctor, your doctor really should say, if he knows you for a long time, maybe give you a hug. Good way to start. Saw a patient the other day, had a nurse practitioner. The first thing, she said, I love her. I said, why? She says, the first thing she does, gives me a hug. And the next thing she does says, and what's going on in your life? Man, I loved it. I said, don't ever stop going to that person. I loved it. Osler said 1900, many years ago, a famous doctor, it's more important to know what's going on in the life of your patient than the disease that he has in most instances. Interesting. I think it's true. 90% of the time, that would be true. Because you have to know what's going on in the life of the person, because that affects their symptoms a great deal. And it can't be walk in there, here's a prescription, go see a specialist. You know, unless you got a tumor sitting there this big, or you just clearly had a heart attack. Forget it, man. You need a little more thoughtful approach. And here's a wellness paradigm, the harmony of the physical. This is holistic medicine, really. There's the harmony of the physical, intellectual, emotional, and the spiritual. That's holistic medicine. You got to consider the whole patient. You got to consider the spirituality. You got to consider their religion. You have to consider, did somebody just die in the family? Did they just lose their child? Saw a patient recently. She'd had terrible low back pain. She had seen her physician who had injected her 80 times in her back. Went to a pain center. They injected it, 2 guys, 10 times each. Didn't get bad epidural blocks. Then he started her on narcotics. Then she went across the street. She was injected 21 times by another pain doctor. Then she's curling up a little ball in my office. She'd had 13 MRIs in 6 years. Then I asked her, and what's going on in your life? She says, well, I says, I've been upset for about 5 years. I said, what's that? He says, my child died in an accident. Then I said, what do you used to do for a living? And she said, something that brought tears to my eyes. Not that the first student didn't. She said, I'd been a yoga instructor. For Pete's sake, the first guy should never have injected her. Should have sent her to a yoga studio, relaxation, massage, books to read about stress, educated her. Maybe Rudy and Kelly's 20 prescription for stress reduction, like on my website. Treatment. Let's talk about treatment a little bit here. The goal, stasis, equilibrium. Keep life simple. That's easy to say, especially look at my life. It isn't simple. But I have control. I have commitment. And I have control. Plus I exercise regularly, play a little music in the morning, do yoga regularly, and I have a sense of control. Not everybody certainly could do all the things that I do in one day. A lot of them have nothing to do with neurosurgery. Write books, give lectures. But I have a sense of commitment. I have a message I'm trying to give out to people. And for many people, they can't not do all these things at once. So try to keep life simple. Believe me, I can make it go out of hand, and I have on occasion. So avoid watching for a knock in your motor. You know, you're in this earth, and stop looking for every little symptoms and there's something wrong. Stop thinking like that. Look to the next day. Don't look to the past. And learn to like work. Learn to love work. You could have the lousiest job in the world. Just be the best there is at it, okay? And be the best that there is at it. And I realize I have a great advantage. I mean, I don't like my job. I love my job, even with all the stresses. And believe me, I'm not 39 years old. And I just love my job. So I realized it's a real advantage. But learn to like your work. And if you can, switch to something you do like. Rick Warren wrote a book, The Purposeful Life. And I read it through it, and I thought, geez, I'm not sure I believe all that. But I realize now, having reread it again, he's really got a point. And so does Dr. LaShan, who wrote about terminal cancer patients. He treated terminal cancer 45 years. If he could figure out and get somebody to change their life in a way that to do something they always wanted to do, or develop a purpose, they live twice as long. They live twice as long, and the spontaneous cure rate of cancer went up. And so it is in our lives. If you have a purpose in your life, you could have the dumbest job. I mean, I say good morning every day to the guy that cleans the floor at Lutheran Hospital. Big smile on his face, he has a sense of humor, telling jokes. And I admire that guy so. I admire him so. He ain't a brain surgeon, he's cleaning the floor. I love that guy. Why do I love that guy? He's enjoying life. He wants to have the floor to look the cleanest in the hospital anywhere. He says, is it looking perfect, doctor? I said, yeah, it's looking close to perfect. So you can enjoy life no matter what your job is. So learn to like work. I think it's a big one. Have a good hobby. I think that's a good one. With me, there's no doubt, people would say I'm a tennis bum. And, I'm the 3-5 tennis champ in the city. I play national tennis tournament. And when I play late at night. But I'll enter the city tournaments. So that's a good hobby. I play music and I write books. That's more than a hobby. I've written, man, and I had no ability to write. 5 years ago, I wrote a book about writing a book. By writing a book, last page said, write. So I started writing. I have somebody edit the stuff. Now I'm a writer. So pick up a hobby, do something. I can't believe that ever happened. And I'm sure not natural at that. I'm not natural in music, but I can play the piano and the saxophone now because I practice 15 minutes every day. And I was not born with the genes to do it naturally. And like people join the human enterprise. Now there's a good one. I've got a nurse who works for me, an African-American 6'4" guy. I'm proud to admit it. I think people kind of frankly like me because I've learned how to handle people. People like my nurse, Brian, more than me. The whole hospital loves Brian. The patients call up just to talk to him every day. I have kids on the floor. After I see them, they'll call the office. Could Brian please come back? Brian has this tender, soft voice. I'm telling you, a tender, soft voice goes a long way. And every time we see some in the elevator, perfect strangers, we say good morning, have a nice day. I try to say something funny. I'm not naturally funny, but I think I'm getting to be funny because I try to look for things to be funny about. I'm going to operate on somebody's back tomorrow and he's bald, for example. I say, well, too bad, we're not going to operate on your brain. It's going to be easier to make the incision. I have to shave your head. That brings a laugh every time. That don't seem that funny. But think of funny things to say, and after a while you develop 10 or 20 things that are funny. And it makes me feel good. It makes other people feel really good, I'll tell you. So meet adversity by turning defeat into victory. Okay, the most horrible thing may happen, but try to make something good. Like my mother died in 97. How are you going to make something good out of that? But she lived a long, good life, and people wanted to contribute some money to it. And I say give it to Turnstone for wheelchair tennis. People thought that's an unusual request. But there's a sign up there now that says my mother gave money for wheelchair tennis, and we turn a bad thing into best we could do thing. So meet your problems with decisions. Make a decision. Write the decision down. Writing things down is helpful. So that's another way to make it. Write down, do the best that you can do. None of us, dumb things happen to everybody, including me, believe me. I can't control my life. It's the way humanity is. And especially in the tricky business that I am, where, anytime Dick and Harry could sue you. And I'd probably do 300 things a day people could sue me about. You don't think that's stressful? It's stressful. But you do the best you can, live with it. Make the present moment an emotional success. I think this is a big thing. I operate and get a long operation. I play music. I've had anesthesiologists and nurses saying today, we don't even feel we're at work. And I'm feeling good. So we're playing music at work. I think when you can, I think it's a good thing. It doesn't interfere with our concentration. It improves it. And don't let irritating things get you worried. Don't talk about the past. For Pete's sake, stop watching TV and some of these irritating programs. There are things on TV today that could irritate a person every other second, and they make big points out of little deals. Most of the radio shows get an audience by making big deals are little deals. They get that 10,000 people are irritated about this, what the president said, or some stupid thing going on in the world. Don't waste your time. I don't even turn the radio on in my car. I got nothing but CDs of beautiful music that makes me feel good. I don't need these irritating guys. I can't solve all the world's problems, and neither can you. And the family, you want a killjoy atmosphere in the family. It can, like, you know, I remember my dad, I'll be honest with you, and fortunately he lived till age 90, but he read the New York Daily News every darn day. And what did the New York Daily News get in it? Bad news. Never any good news. Never anything good. And the grandkids do something good, or I do something good. That don't mean a darn thing. It's the bad news in the paper that interests them. And that's ridiculous. You don't want that kind of atmosphere. A critical atmosphere, always looking at the bad instead of the good. Look at the good things that are going on with your children. And criticism is going to make them better. But if you really stress their good things, they'll get better. And an atmosphere of dislike. Some families have that. Dislike each other and don't like anything. A lot of it has to do with selfish egoism, narcissism, about concentrating just about ourselves too much. Fear, anxiety keep us awake at night. In-law domination, you know, we've seen that one. And so keep the family stasis is important. Have a family enterprise. Make something your goal. You know, a church, for example, or a sports activity. Join the human enterprise, a group, a church, sports. I think to be part of like-minded people leads to longevity. I give a lecture on longevity. A group of like-minded people that meet once or twice a week, they live longer. They just live longer. Affection, critical happenings. My house burned down one time, and I learned about hugging people. I lived over a house with somebody for 6 months while they were rebuilding my house, and that was a hugging family. I learned how to hug people. My parents never hugged people. I think that's a good thing. Kindliness, cheerfulness, discipline, firm but reasonable. Mutual enjoyment now, today. And let's go through the treatment of stress here a little bit. Breathing techniques is the easiest. It's cheap, costs nothing. Complete breath, where you take a real long breath, let your belly hang out, close your eyes, visualize something nice, walking down the beach or something, or dancing, whatever. Breath of fire, that's where you breathe real fast. That's a good one. Alternate nasal breath, where you put your finger up here and you close one nostril off and then the other. I had an older patient do that the other day. He came into me with a neck like this, Parkinson's disease, shaking. I asked him to visualize, not shaking, I asked him to visualize being straight, you know, making a picture, visualization. Visualization is a language to the unconscious mind. And I asked him to use some breathing techniques. He figured out alternate nasal breath is what he could do. He came back a month later. My God, he was straight. He wasn't shaking as much. And his darn pain was gone. And it was free. He was really happy. No narcotic. How about that? So to learn breathing techniques, relaxation techniques, meditation techniques, very important. Mantras, that's a repeated word to quiet your mind. You can do it on the floor, you do it sitting, you do it walking, do a body scan, lay there, and just, for example, if you get a pain problem, just kind of scan your body, pay attention to your feet, walk it up the body, across the other side, down the other foot, up your arms, and then off the, say, pain is leaving my body. These are scanning techniques. They work. They work. Meditation in Medicine is a book that's on my website. It's a good one to read. Good one to read if you're trying to go away from narcotics for pain. I see too many people have narcotics for pain. We have had 90 deaths in these counties here last year from physician prescriptions of narcotics. That's got to stop. Try the techniques. Join the yoga studio or make contact at our MindBody Institute. I've got people who can teach you how to treat pain and stress reduction, and it's cheap. So it's simple techniques. And prayer helps. Prayer causes secretion of neuropeptides and hormones, and prayer helps. I pray with my patients. I'm going to do a big case today. I operate this girl today, and she went to a church with somebody that I know. Going to operate on her elbow. She asked me to say a prayer with her, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful, and I did. I immediately grabbed her hand. We said a prayer, and it was a beautiful thing. And I pray with my patients, and according to their religion, not mine, theirs. And yoga activity is very good. Yoga is exercise and meditation. Very good thing to do. And remember I talked about visualization and meditation. And biofeedback is a technique that can be used for example, you to visualize this a computer and see the impulses, and you can slow your heart rate and train your mind. Music is great. I tell you, I love music. I dance, I play musical instruments. I travel with Andy Roux on PBS. You see him, Andy Roux. I'm a friend of his. I've traveled with him all over the world on occasion. And I'm on one of his DVDs, dancing with a disabled person. He brought in some nursing home people, and I'm on there dancing on his DVD. And but when I drive down the street, I try to visualize the instrument, how they're playing it. I visualize the notes, and that is really meditation. It brings me into the present moment. I'm telling you, that's relaxing. And play the music you like, not the one I like. Play what you like, and play an instrument. It helps grow the brain. On our website, I'm going to put eventually brain gyms, how to expand your brain, your memory. An instrument is a good way. It builds new brain cells. Definitely works. So playing an instrument is a very good thing. Kids who play instruments are usually better at math. And art. Learn to paint. Humor, jokes, and laughing and yoga, I think is very, very good. Norman Cousins has written books about jokes and laughing. He had spinal pain. It didn't help by medication. So he watched funny movies for an hour, and he had no pain for 6 hours. He's written a book about it. I think it's a very good book. A massage is a good thing. Exercise of all types. Take a walk. A half-hour walk is good as taking a Prozac. It's better than taking a Prozac. It's cheaper. And psychotherapy has some value, limited value. Some medicines of value. And acupuncture I recommend sometimes for fibromyalgia. I believe in that. And so the treatment is conscious thought control. Your mind's eye must watch what you're thinking. You got to watch what you're thinking, man. You can't think negative all day. Visualize something better. Remember, it's a language of the unconscious mind. I'm going to keep my thinking and my attitude calm and cheerful. Live the moment. That's meditation. Mindfulness in daily activity. Fight unhappiness. Fight unhappiness. Emotional stasis. Ability to meet a variety of life situations, bad with the good. Courage, determination, cheerfulness. To react better than a child. Maturity. A giving versus receiving attitude. Mature emotional stasis, ability to maintain equanimity, rejection, courage, determination, cheerfulness, fear, and anxiety and frustration. Reduce it. But you got to do something. I mean, you got to take a good walk every day, maybe take a little medication, take a hot shower, get a massage. Massaging is very good. So meditation is slowing of your breath is the opposite of hyperventilation. Causes slowing of the heart rate, decreases oxygen consumption, lowers your blood pressure. Before somebody gives you blood pressure pills, try some meditation. Maybe that's all you need. And if you do an EG, you can see a reduction in the alpha rhythm. Meditation should not make you drowsy. It's the opposite to Dr. Cannon's fight or flight response. It's a good habit. It's cheap. It doesn't cost a darn thing. So meditation is consciousness to awareness. Focus on an object, a mantra, words. Concentration is essential in all systems of meditation. It's work. It's not free. You got to do it. The mind is stilled. And pay attention to every movement. That's yoga. When you pay attention to the movement in yoga, it's not just exercise. It's meditation. Types of yoga you have: Hatha yoga, Zen, no thought. Transcendental yoga is yoga with mantra. Kundalini yoga is yoga with exercise. Karma yoga. Meditation is psychologically and physically more refreshing than sleep. Jesus, that's something, isn't it? More refreshing than sleep. And their books on meditation. At the MindBody Institute, 6 o'clock Tuesdays, we run lectures on meditation, on relaxation, every Tuesday. And they are very good. My yoga instructors give it. I give some of it. And very good. It beats the devil out of narcotics and pills. Have a beginner's mind when practicing Zen yoga meditation. Trust yourself. Avoid group thinking. Avoid the group. Be individual. Mindfulness. Be mindful of what you're doing. If you're mindful you're doing the dishes, that's meditation. Look at the dishes. What color are they? What do your forks look like? That's meditation. Paying attention to something in the moment. No striving. None doing. Accept things as they are. Just letting go. Dr. Zinn runs a stress clinic over in Massachusetts at MIT, and this is what he teaches. He's there for 2 weeks, and every day this is what he's teaching. And the body scan we talked about, paying attention to your body from one extremity to the next and going up the arms and up the neck and the head and then out of the top of your head. Just when you're paying attention like that, it's meditation. So yoga is meditation. Walking is meditation. You pay attention to the birds, you pay attention to the ground, the trees, and you're listening. That's meditation. You can do it sitting. So Zen meditation, there's no I. There's no I. Dissolve the I-me complex. Stop thinking. Don't be so narcissistic. You're constantly thinking just of you and your values and your unhappiness. Think of the whole universe, not just you, your whole family. That's stress reduction. And with that, I think I've covered the field quite well. Stress is part of every one of our lives, and every one of our lives. Even the most common individual has some stress. And certainly we see a lot more of it in economic times, and we learn to deal with it. I see mothers with 3 or 4 kids who don't have 10 minutes to spend with themselves. I tell them constantly, please, take a half hour or 60 minutes a day for you, just for you. Because eventually what will happen to them, they'll end up with some mind-body illness, either medication, or maybe somebody does an MRI or a scan and tries to say, this is the cause of your problem, when maybe it isn't. Before you know it, they're on injections, they're on narcotics, and maybe end up with unnecessary surgery. I see a bunch of that. That concerns me. And I wish you all good luck. And if you want to look my yoga instructor, look me up at the Cashman MindBody Institute. We have two places now at Lutheran Hospital in Lafayette, and we charge very little. And I think we helped a lot of people. We even have weight reduction classes. 200 people have my weight reduction classes, and we're having big success. I've got 7 diabetics last month that lost their diabetes. So I think, and what I'm trying to do is to make you realize that this brain of yours is attached to the body. I think medicine removed the brain from the body about 300 years ago. They have not reattached it yet, and that's the reason I personally believe we overtreat people a great deal, and we could save billions of dollars by just being more thoughtful in saying to the patient and giving them a hug and say, and what's going on in your life? Thanks so much. Hope you learned something today.